All right, welcome back, kids, to another episode of Todd's House of Speed. I'm Todd. This is my trusty dog, Noah, the Wonder Dog. He's my shop foreman, parts getter, test driver, and just a general good guy. So today what we're going to do is we're going to do another episode on our Porsche, our 85 911. And specifically what we're going to do is we're going to replace the front brake pads. I'm going to show you the right way to do it. And I'm going to tell you the brand of pad that I'm going to put on there. We're going to change brands. And also talk about the Boxster caliper conversion. So, as I said, these pads only have 100 miles on them or so. And look at my other series of videos where I talk more about why that is. So we have a problem, and the problem is that the brake pads are fine when they're cold. There's no problem really with the performance, is with the sound. So as these pads start to heat up, they start to squeal just as you come into a stop. And the hotter they get, the worse it gets. And I hate that. I mean, I can't stand it. So I'm going to do a different brand, and I'm only going to replace the pads and show you the proper way to do it. But I do want to talk about if you didn't have a problem and you're just doing routine maintenance, replacing the pads. So in any European car, and most even domestic cars, is the pads and the rotors are designed to wear together. The rotors are a composite metal and they're lighter. So again, they're designed to wear together. It's not like an old school American car, domestic car, where you machine the rotors and you replace the pads and you'd get multiple cuts out of a rotor and cycles in a lifespan. So normally, if you would be doing brakes on this, you would have the right way. Always put rotors on it. Put a good quality pad. I'm going to tell you which one, so stay tuned, which brand to buy and why. And always dump your brake fluid. So if you look right here, I've got the top off and I've just got a towel over top of it because I want to ventilate it. So what I'm going to do is, because I just flushed this system a couple of months ago, all the brake fluid, probably the second time in 3 years, and the car hasn't been anywhere. So what you don't want to do is, on your Porsche or any other car, is you don't want to, when you retract the pads, because you're going to have to squeeze the pads, retract them, you don't want to push all that dirty fluid back up in the master cylinder. Now, since there's very little wear and the fluid is new essentially, I am going to push some fluid back up in the master cylinder, but it's not very much. What you would do is, under any other situation, is you should always crack the bleeder, and and I'll show you, as you're expanding or putting the pads back in, you're not pushing the old dirty fluid back up in there. You're basically going to expel it through the brake bleeder. So that's really the right way to do it. That is absolutely the right way to do it. So today, why that looks a little different is, as I said, because we just flushed it. So you can see what we have here is the reason this caliper looks a little bit different, and I'll talk about it. This is a Boxster standard, early first generation Boxster caliper. It's billet aluminum, it's very lightweight. It's a differential bore, and I'll talk about that. And this is a kit that basically you get a Boxster caliper, and it uses the same size rotor that's on the car, and there's a kit that basically puts it all together. So that's why this might look different than, or it is different than, your standard Porsche caliper. So let's get into it. So here's our Boxster caliper, and you can see it looks a little bit different than the standard Porsche caliper that comes on this car. And then also make sure that when you are replacing your pads and your rotors that we just talked about, make sure you count in the brake wear sensor. Don't forget that, because that's kind of a one-time use. Now, what's different is today is I'm going to try to actually save these, because these have hardly any time on it and save the sensor. We'll see how that all works out. Maybe not. So I'm gonna unplug the sensor here. There's a single pin, there's a little button back here, and then there's a clip. So to get the pads out, we need to take the pin out, which has the in-out rattle spring, and then that's also attached to the crossover wire to the sensor. So we're going to take it out. Okay, and we're going to drive the pin out. So that spring, you'll see, is what's holding tension on it, the anti-rattle spring. So we'll go ahead and see there's really nothing there as far as holding it. And then we're going to take this, and let me move this so we can see a little bit better. And then you can see where it tucks into this clip. And get that out of the way. Now, this is a spreader. Mostly it could be used for a lot of things, but it really is intent for spreading the brake pads out. You don't have to have this. You can certainly put something in here. You got to be really careful though. You can use a screwdriver or something. You don't want to really, I've seen people take a pair of pliers or channel locks and grip the pad and pull against this. This aluminum, it's billet, it's very good, but it's going to scar. So we don't want to do that. So that's what this is designed to do. So let's put this in here. I mean, there's not much. You can see the pad moving. I mean, there's no wear. So I just put it in here in between because it was too wide. And again, you could use screwdriver or something, just be really careful. So you need to retract the pads all the way. I think that's as far as it's going to go. Before you pull the caliper off, if you were going to change the rotor. So they should be ready to pull out. And I'll be really careful with them. It's a pretty snug fit. And there we go. There's one. You can see these have a locating pin. We're going to have to drive that out. Hopefully that's not going to be too dramatic. All right, so let's get this other pad out. And you can see that there's a locating pin, and you're going to have to swap that out. We're going to have to swap it out. The new pads will come with it, this roll pin. So we've got the old pads out, and yeah, whatever. They squeal. I'm done. So we've retracted them. We're going to knock the pins out, and I'm going to show you the new pads and some of the difference in the squeal. I see something right away that I didn't see originally. And through the magic of television, we'll get this all back together. Okay, so I want to talk about something right here. If you look at the difference between the pad that I just took off, the first thing that might catch your eye is, you see this edge? So the leading and the trailing. Now look at this pad. See where it's beveled? Both sides, leading and trailing. So guaranteed that this is a performance pad. And the whole idea of a performance pad, you want all the surface you can get to utilize the friction, the contact to the rotor. The problem is just what it's doing. It's you can see it's a little bit glazed over. I'm not sure if how the camera picks it up, but it's also not beveled. And I promise you, that's one of the biggest things is noise. By having when it's completely squared off like that and it's not beveled, I guarantee you that's where some of the noise is coming from, and also from the glazing. I don't know if you can pick up the difference. Of course, this pad's a little bit used. This one's new, but that's what I wanted to point it out. All right, so we're gonna take our roll pin and we're gonna see if we can get it to start. There we go, that's the good one. All right, you can see, just drive it till it's just flush. Okay, one more time. How about that? Just for good luck. Yay, all right. Okay, all right, so one of the things is right away, a good set of brake pads will already have the shim on the back, and that's also for noise. and also lubricant to put on where it contacts the pad, it contacts the inside of the caliper, and a little bit on the backing. So if you open a box and you see that they already have the shims on it and the caliper grease, you're already on the right track. It's a quality pad. So if you've never seen this before, always wondered maybe what the shims are for. The shims are like, in essence, like putting your finger on a guitar string. So the shims are there on the back of the pad to combat the noise, because the leading edge, when it starts to squeal, it literally vibrates. And the shim on the back is designed to cushion, or just like you're putting your finger on a guitar string, to eliminate or cut down on the audible brake squeal, okay? So between, and if the other pads had it, you can see it definitely still had that. But this is a little more street friendly. And so we're gonna put a little bit of the lube. So just a little bit, it's all it takes. And then we're gonna put a little bit more. Doesn't take much. That's why they don't give you much, because a little bit goes a long way. Okay, all right, so we're gonna slide our pad in. Easy peasy. We got our other one. Okay. All right, we're good to go. So, the next thing is we've got can we get these back in? Our sensors, they're in pretty good shape. All right, there's a little snap. All right. And you can see where the locating pins just keep them kind of squared away there. And then we're gonna put our spring. Let me see if I can get our light a little bit better here. Get out of the light. All right, so you can see that, so this spring keeps the pads against, that's why the pins are here to locate them and keep pressure on them. So we're gonna slide the pin here and you can see the step. Let's see, there we go. And then we're gonna take our hammer. So then, and make sure we got our hole lined up there so we can put our cotter pin. Actually, I'm kind of backwards here. All right. You want to bring this back around, check your pin location for your sensors. And snap together. And we're going to put him back up in here. Kind of fits like that. This fits right there. And then this snap, let me see if I can get it in there. There we go. All right, I think we're good to go. All right, so there's we replaced our pads. We've got our new pads, and we'll tell you what brand it is, and we'll save that to the last. And again, we didn't replace the rotors, anything like that, because we've just done all that a while back. It's only got 100 miles on it, so we're gonna take care of the squealing. So this side, we're gonna call done. And we're gonna get in, I'm gonna turn the steering wheel to the other side and we're gonna repeat it. All right, so we're on the passenger side, we got our driver's side done. And I'm gonna go ahead and disconnect the sensor wire.
Hey, no time for playing. We've got work to do.
So we're done here, and what we're going to do is straighten our wheel up, okay? So the steering wheel, where everything is straight ahead, and then we're going to press on the brake pedal to take up the slack in the pads, because remember we moved the pads out, even though these were new, there was a little bit of slack there. Take the slack up, and that way is we remember to do that, because if we don't, we're going to put the wheels and tires on, and then we go to back it out, the brake pedal is going to go to the floor. So always remember, before you put the wheels and tires back on, step on the brake pedal and make sure you got a good pedal, all right? Tip. Okay, so always remember, before you put your wheels and tires back on, take the slack out. So stepped on the pedal, we're good to go now. Don't step on the pedal when you're backing out, because you're going to run through the end of the garage. I'm telling you, people do it all the time. All right? Shop foreman, you okay? It's not time to play, son. All right. So we've replaced the front brake pads the right way. Even though the pads that I had on there, again, only has 100 miles on it, so we only replaced the pads, we did not replace the rotors. And I showed the difference in the pads were squealing and they were slightly glazed. So now I want to talk about the pads. So what brand? Akebono. So you may or may not be able to get these at your local auto parts store. I get these from Rock Auto. Akebono doesn't pay me. Rock Auto doesn't pay me. Rock Auto, I use that because I use them because they are very consistent. The service is good. I've never had a problem. You can definitely find them on Rock Auto. You may be able to find them at your local auto parts store. These are their ceramic pads. This is an upgrade from their base pad. These have great performance, but also no noise and no dust. I mean, I put this brand on trucks, imports, I mean like Japanese, whatever. It's like, what's that commercial, Frank's hot sauce? I put that S on everything. I put these on everything. So this is like years. This is the best brand that I've ever used as far as no noise, great performance, and very low dust. It just doesn't get any better. When you go past these, as far as performance, you're going to get into basically a pad like I took off, and then you have to deal with noise. And that's just the trade-off. It wasn't worth the trade-off for me. All right, Akebono. So the last thing is, I'm going to throw it over there, is, so I talked about the Boxster brake calipers on the front. So the Boxster brake calipers, like, what's so special? So the big thing with the Boxster caliper is the calipers are actually billet aluminum. They're a forged aluminum piece. So they're very lightweight, but they're very strong, where the original calipers on these are sand cast or cast, which is fine in normal applications, even performance. But the other part about the calipers are, these are 4-piston and they're called a differential bore. So if you've never heard that term, what it means is the pistons, or the piston pucks, one is bigger and one is smaller. So they're different sizes, hence the term differential bore. So why would they do that? And most manufacturers are using it in performance applications today. A differential bore caliper will give you really good feel at light braking. But what happens is, when you start to get serious and you're doing heavy braking, you need more pressure, and that's where the large puck comes in, or the large piston comes in. So the small one is for that light feel, and that, I mean, they're all working at the same time. But the large one is for that extra pressure you need when the brakes start to heat up, and you need that extra oomph to get that thing slowed down. So it's really, it's not necessarily new technology. It's been around for a while, but it's a great brake upgrade for your Porsche. There's a couple of different kits that literally mount these right onto the spindle, and that's what these are. So replace pads the right way. Akebono, I put that stuff on everything, right? And then the Boxster caliper, so it gives you a little bit more performance. You are always limited by the friction surface, or the rotor, the diameter rotor, and then how much surface there is to grab. So these are still the original style rotors. So the only thing past this brake upgrade would be like an aftermarket or a later model, like either a 964 or 993 brakes all the way around. So this car is pretty light for what it is. I think it's about, this one is about 2,800 pounds. I have an AC delete. So this braking, which has got the factory brakes in the rear and the Boxster brake upgrade, it's plenty. Unless you're going to track this car almost exclusively, you might consider something else. But that's a great way to take the G Series and put the Boxster calipers on the front and get that great, it's a better feel and better performance, all right? So please like and subscribe, comment, check out my other videos, hot rods, rat rods, muscle cars, and of course, Porsche. See ya!